Hello, my loves. Welcome to part 2 of Body Boundaries Business 3-day Masterclass. We made it to day 3. Hold on one second. I'm going to try to adjust this lighting a little bit because I feel like I'm slightly blinded. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so we're going to get started. We're going to get started on the subject, on the conversation of boundaries. And this is huge for me. This is a huge part of my self-discovery, of my journey with self, of my self-awareness, of what I'm working on right now, even though it's been kind of a transformation already. Hi, Kayla. So good to see you. Amy, good to see you. Okay, so I tagged some of you. Some of you will just have to find this video. Whenever you're watching this is perfectly fine. After this group goes away on June 16th, you will be getting permanent links to all of these videos. So all of 3 parts you get to keep. It's gonna come as an email, so stay on the lookout. Hey Amy, it's so good that you're here. So I'm just gonna jump right in because I tend to go on for quite a little bit. So I want to talk to you first of all about being the no boundaries girl. Being the no boundaries girl for the longest time ever. So yesterday was all about the body. Today is all about the boundaries. And for the longest time, I felt like boundaries was something that I didn't want to have because I felt like boundaries was a privilege, an exclusivity, a kind of separation. I felt like if I didn't have any boundaries, I was even secretly better than other people because other people have boundaries and I have no boundaries. So that means I'm so much better than everyone else. I didn't have these specific terms running through my head, but that's something that I kind of believed on the deep level, and that did not serve me. So as we get started, I want to kind of backtrack to the time where no boundaries really existed for me. And so what that looked like was that I was not really in control of my time. I was not really in control of my psychic gifts. I was not really in control of my business. And I want to bring you to the peak of that no boundaries Katerina version. So we're going to travel back, let's say about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, at the age of 24, almost 24, I started it wasn't my first business venture. I've started a business prior to that. Or attempted to run a business, and it was quite successful, but it was a very short-term project. So this time I really started a business. I registered my LLC. Hold on one second, I want to see this. Taylor says, I had no boundaries and now I work on maintaining my boundaries. That's really great. So I feel like this training is going to be really, really good for you. So this is the space for doing this work. So I started the business. I just kind of emerged out of the dark night of the soul. And that's something that we kind of looked deep into yesterday on yesterday's live. Which is, by the way, all the lives in this group are going to be in the announcement section. So if you're looking for the first one, just go to the very top and it's at the very top. So just putting that out there. I will create the guides once all the 3 are available for the 48 hours that you will have after that. So anyway, back to the story. Have to bring myself back. So I just emerged out of the dark night of the soul. I had my spiritual realization. I had this awareness that I haven't really been living truly my life. I haven't been myself. I haven't been honoring my body. I didn't even know who I was. And so my leg just healed and my ankle just healed. And I basically started a business because I was unemployed. And I had a few clients from the past, from the job that was really terrible for my soul because I didn't believe in what I was selling. In fact, I believed that what we were selling was crap. Like I had such a deep awareness of like, okay, this is absolute crap. I was selling ads to small businesses that did not work. So from that experience, I had a few clients that really loved my energy, and they were like, Katerina, why don't you just help us? You know how social media works, like you know how to run ads because you've set them up. Because I would actually go in and try to actually fix the ads myself so they would get some kind of a return on their investment. And the company I was working for did not care. They were like, do whatever you want. We just basically want to collect checks. And when someone cancels, you go ahead and you find someone else, someone new. And so I was like terrified by this. So I was trying to go in and fix everything. No boundaries. So I didn't have my own boundaries. I didn't leave the company. I had to wait until I was asked to go because I was kind of causing too much trouble, stirring up too much trouble. I was calling attention to things that didn't work and no one liked it. So they were like, get out. So I waited for that. And so I didn't have any boundaries with myself. So I didn't have any boundaries with anyone else. But back to the story. We are opening a business. We are starting our own business. So a few clients that remembered me from that job and knew that I was extremely dissatisfied with what the company was doing and how they were going about it. They saw me stumbling around town, and I was about to move out from my parents' place where I had to live for a while with my broken leg and find an apartment. And I did find an apartment, and I was stumbling around town with my healing ankle, and I could already walk, and I was just, walking around. And a few clients that I saw were like, hey, Katerina, that would be, what would be amazing is if you would like actually help us and just do it on your own. And I was like, you know what, I've always wanted to start a business. So that sounds amazing. So I was like, yeah, you guys, thank you so much for this opportunity. So I had like 2 or 3 clients that were like this. They were like, okay, if you start, we're going to pay you. Just tell us what you charge and let's go. Because we canceled that company. Now we need someone to help us with marketing. And these are small mom and pop shops, basically like bars and restaurants. So I said, yes, I went and I registered my LLC. I moved into this new apartment. This is not comfortable going there right now because it sounds like starting of a really good story, but it's not. So this is a little nerve-wracking, but this is the point. This is why I decided to create this masterclass experience, because I'm not talking about the things that I've mastered. I'm talking about the things that I'm on the journey of becoming. So continuing with this scary cliffhanger is I start a business, I start working with the clients, but I have no boundaries. I have no boundaries with myself. I have no boundaries whatsoever. I don't know what to charge. So I charge them the absolute minimum that I can. I charge them so they pay ads at cost that I run, and they pay me the littlest I could come up with. Like the most minimum that I could come up with. And so what did I do? When bars and restaurants paid me the littlest I could possibly come up with, I would feel bad about it. Not only would I not feel like I didn't have any concerns about I couldn't afford to pay rent, basically, let alone living expenses, and I just moved into this new apartment. That didn't bother me. What bothered me is I was feeling guilty, even getting the little that they were paying me. And so guess what I did? You're not going to guess. I spent basically all of the money that they paid me in their business while doing work there. So I had no boundaries whatsoever. I had no help. I was running around from business to business all night. They were bars and restaurants, so most of their stuff that they needed social media help with happened at night. So I would film the concerts on my phone going live. That was kind of innovative, and it kind of helped fill out the place a few times. So I would do the live from their business page. I would do the live on my phone. I would stay there all night, schmooze with the musicians, be like, hey, you guys, you should play at this venue for, we'll bring more people in and maybe you can get more tips, but maybe the bar can pay you. I was negotiating on behalf of the bar, which was not in my job description. I had no contracts with my clients. No contract. I don't do contracts now, but whenever someone chooses a payment plan with me, it's a contract because the payment plan is going to keep going, or they just pay in full. There is no need for a contract. I do a different type of work now. But at the time, I'm glad I didn't run into any legal issues, but I was working with businesses. So it was B2B kind of work. So not having a contract was not a good idea, but I didn't have any contracts. I didn't even know what that was or how to create one. So there was no description of exactly what my services would be. It would just be basically anything. That's what it's like to have no boundaries, is you'll basically do anything, whatever you need to do. And so whatever I got paid, hanging out there all night, doing all the work, filming, promoting, talking, I would spend the money that they paid me there. And I felt like it was justified because I was guilty receiving the little that I charged. Because, I charged the money. I called my own price. And I spent all of it at the place. So you can imagine that I had basically a whole lot of zeros in my bank without any numbers preceding them. So how did I pay for rent? I constantly borrowed money from my mom, my dad, whenever I could. He's a little better with boundaries. But my mom is always there too. She's always been my number one person who I would call with any trouble ever. So, but it became constant. It became so constant. And whoever I was dating, I would be like, hey, could I borrow some money to pay my rent? I don't. They're like, what are you doing? You're working all day, every day. You're running around town. You're doing all this stuff. How come you don't have money enough to pay rent? And it was like, because I spend it all at the place where I work. And they're like, why? Why don't you have a tab? If you're doing work there all night, they should technically probably get you some food or something. And I'm like, no, but they're already paying me. They're like, yeah, what, $300 a month for you to be there 4 times a day, for 4 times a week, 4 nights a week, from 9 p.m. till 1 a.m.? Are you serious? That's like lower than minimum wage. And I was like, well, it is what it is. I'm just trying to do a good job. So because this was so weird, right? I was also kind of drinking at the same time. I was buying myself drinks. It's a bar, right? Everyone's drinking. I'm drinking. So how does that sound? Does that sound very professional? No, because it was not. But no boundaries. No boundaries whatsoever. So another thing that was happening in addition to this chaos was that in the time that I had off, so to speak, I was also channeling unsolicited messages to people that surrounded me because I had no boundaries. I would come up to a person in a coffee shop because I'm like, so no boundaries. And I'm like, oh, this person looks sad. Oh my God. And they would come up to me and be like, hey, I see something that is an issue. I see this and I see that. And they're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Who are you? Why are you coming at me? Like, why? And then I would get to them. I would be like, no, but I need to tell you a story. I need to tell you a message. They would start listening, and then eventually they would be like, oh my God, thank you so much for telling me. Or, oh my God, you have no idea what you're talking about. But then they would be like, this is something that I'm not comfortable discussing, because that was totally unsolicited. But I didn't have any boundaries. So I felt like if I had a feeling about someone, I gotta go tell them. I've got to. Why? Because I have no boundaries. No such concept as if the person needs my services or any other services, they will find that person whenever they're ready. They will pay that person. And it's going to be an even exchange because they get to be powerful in their life. I didn't believe that. I didn't believe I was powerful in my own life. So I was harassing people, basically, doing unsolicited channelings. If you would have seen one of those scenes, you would have probably not recognized me, or you would have been in disbelief. You were like, I've seen this girl online talk about her stuff, but I did not expect to see that. Like, what is going on? It was weird. It was a weird vibe. I'm gonna tell you that. And the best or the worst, however if it's entertainment, then it's probably the best. But if it's watching like a train wreck, then it's the worst. So the worst and the best, comedically speaking, comically, not the right variation of that word. That's okay. was when I would go to the bars late at night because I had no money. The little money that I had, I was like, well, $20 is not going to pay my rent anyway, so let me just go get a few drinks because it's like all chaos anyway. So I would, not when I'm working even, but just as is on other days, I would go out at night and I would go drink at a bar and I would get a few drinks in, and I'm half Russian, so I have pretty high tolerance. So these would be quite a few drinks, and I would get to the point where I'm feeling kind of good, like I'm feeling like, kind of loose and, kind of liberated, and I would see someone spewing some stuff, like saying some smart ass things, or being a pest and annoying someone, or a guy speaking to a girl like he knows everything and she's sitting there rolling her eyes, and I'm like, she's rolling her eyes, I'm gonna say what she actually is feeling. It was hilarious if you are watching a train wreck, if you're watching a comedy. But if you're a human and you are watching someone that you're like, I thought this, I know who she is. Like, she has gifts. This isn't comfortable watching this. That's how you would feel. You would be like, why is she doing? Why is she like this? It looks unhinged. And it's because I didn't have any boundaries. So I didn't respect other people's boundaries either. I didn't think people had boundaries. I thought everyone didn't have boundaries. And whenever I would get pushback for that unsolicited channeling, I would just get more aggressive. I would go like deeper. And this is very deep boundary violation in my business. Like, I do not read for people who have not asked for a reading. I do not read for people that have not paid for a reading. Unless I'm doing readings like a live card pull, then it's obviously a welcoming energy. Like, request a card, you're going to get one. It's a very clear exchange. But I don't go into people's DMs and send readings like, oh, I see something about you. Like, that's crazy to me. But the craziest thing about that is that I used to do this all the time. As crazy as it is to me now, that was who I was. So I would come up to these people, I would do unsolicited readings for them. I would either scare them or annoy them or bring them to tears, and they're like, I'm not comfortable going through this emotion in public. Like, you're telling me things that no one knows about me, and I don't want to cry in a bar. And I'm like, no, but I think you need to hear this. And it was like, honestly, such an off balance energy. Until there was a moment where I was starting to kind of become aware that my business was not working, that I wasn't generating even, this went on for a while. Like, this was a few years. This was maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 years. It got better slowly, but not all at once. There was a breaking point, where there was something that happened. So there was a particular meeting. So the woman that did my first tarot reading for me, that inspired me to study tarot, which I talked about yesterday a little bit, which kind of got me through this dark night of the soul, made me become self-aware. And I still had zero boundaries because self-awareness did not fix that automatically. It was something that I needed to grow into. So for a while I was drinking and I would be doing these unsolicited readings for people, not even asking, just barging in on them. Sometimes like I would get kind of a rise out of like getting someone super emotional when they did not expect that, because I can see things. So it was like, it was not really a clean energy either. It was something that would ultimately serve them, I think, because these channelings were true, as in I was really seeing what I was saying. But they were not requested. No one asked for them. So it was like kind of like an invasion. It was a total boundary violation, but I didn't have boundaries myself, so I thought that was cool. You know, I don't have boundaries. Well, I'm assuming that no one else has them, or shouldn't, because I don't, right? So there was a specific point where the same woman that did my tarot reading and inspired me to just pick up and study tarot, the same woman, we were gonna have coffee one time, and we met, and she said, how are your boundaries? because like she's had a few conversations with me at that point, and she's a little more mature than I am in every aspect. As a spiritual worker, as a woman, she was like a little farther ahead than I am. So she was like, hey, so how is the boundaries? Because like you're not, how's your pricing? How are you still unable to pay your bills? How is your spiritual work? Like, how is everything? And I was like, hey, I'll tell you. She's like, actually, you know what? I have a client call coming up. So I'm going to stay here in this cafe. Take that real quick. Do you have some time? It was kind of like a spontaneous meeting. And I just kind of ran into her and I was like, yeah, I'll be around. She's like, you don't have any plans today? And I was like, no, I never have any plans. I just, do whatever comes up. And she's like, okay. So let's get together after this call. And I felt like weird about it. I was like, she has a call with her client. I'm right here. And she wants to do a call with her client. Because I don't have boundaries, so no one else is supposed to, right? So I was like, I felt a little weird, but I didn't dare tell her that. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll be around. She's like, okay, well then, let's connect in the same coffee shop in about like an hour or so. And I was like, okay. So I kind of left. She was like, you can, maybe stay here and you can. She was like, I was like, no, I'll go to some other place. So I went to some other place. I went to a bar down the street. It was like 12 p.m. afternoon. I went to a bar. I sat down. I don't even remember if I had a drink or not, but it was a normal thing for me to drink during the day because no boundaries, no time, no nothing, no plans, just loosey-goosey everything. So there was a guy sitting there outside and I was so bored. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I have nothing going on. So I sat down next to him and he looked like he was kind of a little bit distressed. So I was like, hey, do you mind if I sit down? He's like, no. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I gotta tell you something. It's gonna sound shocking, but I got something to tell you. And he was like, okay. And so I started channeling. Once again, unsolicited, unrequested. And at first he's like, you know what? I don't believe in any of this stuff. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but all of that is crap. And I was like, you know what? You don't understand. And I channeled some more. And he's like, you know what? It sounds like you think you know me. And you are speaking to some things that are weirdly accurate. But like, I don't need any of this. I don't want any of this. I'm just here to have a beer. So would you mind please like just leave me alone? And I was like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, and I'm trying to convince him that all of this is real and all of this is so important. And I see things that he doesn't see and so on and so forth. Doesn't that make you feel uncomfortable hearing this story? It makes me feel so uncomfortable telling this story. I'm going to be really honest with you. This is like beyond uncomfortable, but this is an important story. So I tell him everything and I'm like convincing and I'm at this point crying and I'm like, you don't understand. And at some point, the guy freaking gives in and he goes like, you know what? I'm not comfortable admitting this, but you're right. Like, you're right. Yeah, you're saying some things that I definitely don't want to hear. But you're kind of right. And then he starts unloading. He is like, and this happened, and this happened, and this person died, and this person was this. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And then I realized like I'm about to pass out. It got so intense. And it's like, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why did I make this happen? All of this, what is happening? So why did I even convince him of all of this? And now he's unloading on me and I'm picking up all of this energy and emotion and grief that's not my own. And I created this whole situation. No one asked me. In fact, this person asked me to leave several times. And I did not listen to that. And so I got up and I was like, okay, I have to go. I'll check the time. And I was like, oh, thank God, the hour has passed. And I'm like, okay, I got to go see my friend. And then so I go to the coffee shop and she's there. And she looks at me. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, tears, like, and she's like, are you okay? Like, you look here like you're not okay. And I was like, I'm not okay. Oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. She's like, what happened? It's been an hour. Like, what happened? And I was like, well, this happened and this happened. And I talked to this person and I told him this. And then he unloaded on me. And she's like, you have no boundaries. You have to realize this. You have zero boundaries. And you're driving yourself insane. Like, it's not serving you. It's dangerous. It's not a safe experience for you or for anyone else. And I was like, okay, where do I start? She's like, well, start by not doing things that no one asked for. and respect your gifts enough where you actually start using your gifts to build something, to create something in your life. What is the purpose of you harassing this person with your channeling? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, well, you got your result. He totally unloaded on you. So is that what you were going for? And I was like, well, I guess. She's like, is that what you enjoy? And I was like, no. She's like, why are you doing this? She's like, why are you all day here every day? And she was using nicer terms, but basically that's what she meant. She's like, why do you not have anything today going on? Why do you just get off and you go and find someone and then you do something they didn't? What are you doing? And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. She's like, yeah, it looks like that. But you gotta take that energy that you go and you throw on people that don't need it, don't want it. Why don't you take that energy and use it for yourself? And I was like, huh, interesting. And at the time, I could not handle the intensity of my energy. And we talked about that yesterday. So previous part one, watch part one. It's super important. In part one, we talked about why. I couldn't handle my own intensity. I couldn't handle the energy in my body. I couldn't handle my psychic gifts. So I constantly drank. I smoked weed every single day, several times a day. I was every single day getting drunk or at least tipsy. Every single day I would go to bed at random hours. And I still do that sometimes because it feels good. Like right now, it's nighttime, but it feels good because I've been nocturnal in the past few days, but I've been also resting. Like I also get the sleep. I also go and exercise my body. I also eat according to a timeline that fits with whatever schedule I'm on currently. But it was so unstructured. I would starve myself, overeat. I would sleep for 12, 14 hours, and then I would sleep for like 3 hours. It was so all over the place. I would meander around town trying to look normal, trying to be liked, while also having no boundaries and also trying to escape myself because I couldn't handle the intensity of my energy. And I couldn't channel the energy to build something for me, something that was significant, something that actually helped people. All I could do was fill my time with stuff, no boundaries. So here's kind of so I heard this beautiful woman who had so much tremendous impact on my life. And she's amazing. She's gorgeous. So I heard her, but I couldn't really use her advice just yet. She actually walked me outside that time, and she did a little bit like a grounding meditation. She asked me to take my shoes off, and she was like, okay, let's take all this energy that you're trying to throw at people and let's ground it. And I was like sobbing, crying. It was like so intense. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what's happening. It was like the intensity was through the roof. I was like, oh my God, does it always feel like this to be fooling myself? I don't feel like I'm ready for it. And at the time I wasn't. And yes, it does feel like that when I'm fully in my power, but it doesn't scare me anymore because I have calibrated to a greater capacity to hold it in my body. But it is my energy. It is my energy. So I was like overwhelmed. So she did this grounding meditation with me, very brief, outside. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work on boundaries. So I started kind of limiting my throw up channeling, where I would just throw it up on people. And I started, I would sit there at a coffee shop and I would, shuffle my tarot cards and I would do readings for myself. And sometimes someone would approach me and be like, hey, are these tarot cards? And I would be like, yeah. And they're like, hey, could I get a reading with you? And I was like, sure. And they were like, well, what do you charge? And at the time I didn't know what to charge and I didn't feel comfortable charging. So I was like, why don't you get me a cup of coffee? Or why don't you get me a tea? Or why don't you get me a pastry? Because I started realizing, okay, boundaries has to do with exchange. Like you can't just go and harass people. You can't just charge the least you possibly can and then make it someone else's responsibility to lend money to you. You can't just go and spread your gifts to people that don't want them just because you can't contain the energy within yourself and it's trying to get out and you're not willing to channel it in a specific way. So I was like starting to kind of understand that. So one of the first steps that I did is I kind of stopped harassing people with my readings because I couldn't keep it within. And I started kind of, being a little more public, doing them in a public space. And whoever would be attracted to me and would come to me and seek it out, I would give them an opportunity to receive one. And it started feeling a whole lot better. But the next level challenge with the boundaries was, it happened very dramatically. It happened when I was at another bar. That's a recurring theme. I was at a bar/restaurant and I was just there. And there was a woman sobbing, like crying. And she's someone that I've seen there quite a few times. She was a lawyer, a permanent kind of woman there. Prominent, not permanent, prominent. Someone that I've kind of seen around, like very respectable looking, like always in a suit, always has her stuff together. Very, very beautiful. And all of a sudden I'm seeing her sobbing and she's kind of trying to like keep it not super seen. She's kind of in the corner. She's like looking away, but I could see that she's distraught. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to harass her with my channeling, but I'm going to ask if she maybe wants to talk. So I came up to her and I was like, hey, do you maybe want to talk? And she's like, are you okay with me being super emotional right now? Because I am. And I was like, yes. I was like, I just feel like we should have a conversation. And so we started talking. And I told her, I channeled for her, and she was very receptive to it. And I was like, hey, I'm psychic. I don't really tell people this. Like, I have a day business doing marketing, which was not working, but I didn't say that part. And I was like, I read cards and I channel. So kind of like more of a beginner with these gifts. I'm trying to learn them more, but here's what's coming up for you. And I just told her. And I saw her change in front of my eyes. She like lit up. She was like, she stopped crying. She was like, this is so right on. Like, you have no idea. And I was like, that's right. I don't have any idea because I don't have no idea what I'm saying right now. And she's like, this is so good. This is so, oh my God. She's like, thank you. I don't know how to ever repay you. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's my pleasure. She's like, no, you don't understand. Like, you made me realize so much tonight. And you totally saved my night. And you totally changed the way that I'm seeing this situation. And you're just like a godsend. Like, I love you so much. You're so gifted. You're so amazing. Can I please, she said to me, can I please pay you? She said to me, can I please pay you? She didn't even ask how much. She just wanted to send me money. She's like, can I, she was pulling out her phone. She was like, I'm going to my PayPal right now. I want to send you money. And she's like, from her energy, and this was not a looks judgment. This was the energy from her energy. The emotional support that I was able to provide is what she needed. But the money, to her, it's like air. That was in her vibe. It wasn't a big thing to her. So she just wanted to thank me. So I don't even know how much she would have paid me. Would have. Because I said no. I looked her in the eyes and I said no. And it was such an out-of-body experience because it was like I saw myself do it. I was like an observer somewhere outside of my body, and I saw myself look her in the eyes and go, no, you don't need to pay me. I don't accept. And I'm just like, my higher self or whatever that was watching me goes like, what the fuck? Like, what? Why? Why no exchange? Why the no boundaries girl again? You were doing so well. Why? And she just looked at me and it hurt her. She didn't say that because she probably didn't even realize it, but she looked at me and she was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay. Because I made her feel like her money is no good. Like I'm some kind of above and beyond person that, no, I don't need that. And then meanwhile, like breaking inside, going like, what is wrong with you? I went home that night and I had like the biggest depressive episode ever. I was like inconsolable. I was like, why? Why did I say no? It wasn't even about the money, but it was about the money because I was so broke. And I would go around convincing people, charging them the less I can. Absolutely. Just so I would feel noble about doing the work. Just so I would somehow fix that job, which I also, no boundaries me, did this job where I was selling things that I knew did not work, and I felt so awful about it. So somehow I was compensating for that still, and or I felt like it. And I was paying the least I possibly can. And to me, that made me somehow better than that company, somehow better than other people who charge so much. And in that moment with this woman, in this moment of intimacy where she offered to pay me, she offered an exchange of energy for something that she received, she wanted to give so that the scales would be balanced. I said no. Because that was my ego, that was the no boundaries girl going like, I don't charge for this because I'm better than people that do. I'm better than people who have boundaries because I don't. And I don't like it when people do have boundaries because I don't. And it was just such, and I was like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? And that word boundaries, it didn't even come up when I was going through this breakdown. I was like, why did I do this? I didn't know. But it was because I had no boundaries. And boundaries means balance. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are not like you put up a wall and no one can enter and no one can say anything. No, that's walls. And then when you put up walls, they have to come down at some point. That's not the subject of this live at all. Boundaries is an equal exchange of energy. Boundaries is not charging your worth. I don't believe in that either. How do you charge your worth? You're worthy unconditionally. So that means, do you not have any amount to charge? No, you charge what you want. But when you don't let yourself want anything to charge and you charge the least you can, or you don't charge at all, and you think you're better than others who do, that's no boundaries. That's called no boundaries. Because you don't respect yourself and you don't respect the people that you work with. Because clearly your assumption is they can't afford what you really want to pay, to charge. So why would you work with them? Well, because you're so noble and so, no boundaries. Wow. So no boundaries. So amazing. No, it's not amazing. It sucks. So that awakening point, that point of like, what the hell did I just do? Why did I do this? What is wrong with me? I was just like so heartbroken. I was like, how in the world this woman wanted to pay me? I don't even know how much. It doesn't even matter. I'm so broke. And this was the one thing that I did that I felt like I gave myself, all of myself, fully. And I didn't accept her gift. And in fact, I made her feel small because this money wasn't an issue. She wanted to give something. And I said, no, you can't give anything. I give, and that's it. And I don't accept anything. No boundaries. I just overshare, and then that's it. Because that's me, basically. So we're going to go to the next very exciting phase of this boundaries journey. But I want to read some comments. Taylor Casey says, fascinating, when you decided decline the money, you were able to connect the archetype to the same archetype you referenced and leaned on last night. Curious if it was the same new different archetype in the money decline. So we're talking about boundaries today. Last night was about body. Okay, so body was a different story, although it's all connected for sure, because it's all part of my journey. Last night was about body and not being embodied, rejecting the body. In this case, it's about boundaries. So already I was more connected to the body, although I was still continuing to abuse it and drink and overdrink and over whatever, not have any schedules, not have any boundaries. So it connects to the body journey. But this journey is a little different because it goes beyond the body and it goes into money. It goes into energy exchange. It goes into unsolicited channeling, which at this point I have already been on this journey of spiritual realization. So my dark night of the soul, my body awakening led to this spiritual awareness, the spiritual gifts that I was tapping into. So I was reading the cards, unsolicited channeling, where I was pulling the cards for people at bars at night without them asking, like, hey, I'm going to pull a card for you. Like, here's a card for you. They're like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, it is this. It was wild. But in this case, the woman actually wanted the help. So this was a step. And then I took one step forward, 10 steps backwards, where she offered me money in exchange for what I gave her, which she actually wanted. So I took a step further. Like, I took a step towards boundaries where I actually asked her, is that okay if I have a conversation with you? You look like you're in distress. She was like, is it okay that I'm in distress? I was like, yeah. So good step, positive step towards boundaries. And then step backwards where she's like, can I pay you? And I'm like, no, you cannot. No, I don't accept that. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry I offended you. And in my soul, I was breaking, like, God, do I need all the money I can get? But not only that, I just rejected someone that wanted to give me something in return, which is the definition of boundaries, is you don't accept anything and everything. You don't give things that other people don't want. You don't go and force your things upon the people that don't really want them. That's no boundaries. But exchange is where the boundaries manifest, because you give what others desire and you receive what you desire. And it's an even exchange. And if there is a mismatch, like you want to give and the person doesn't want whatever you're trying to give them, you respect that, you honor that. That's their boundary. If they want to give for something that you gave them, accepting that sounds reasonable because that's an exchange. If you say no, you just gave, but you didn't give them the chance to give back. So that doesn't sound like boundaries. If someone tries to give you something like, hey, buy this thing for me, or hey, join my free group. You never asked if you could join my free group, but here, join it now. That's no boundaries. If you go and you feel like you must, you don't really have boundaries. Boundaries would be saying like, no, thank you. We never had a conversation before, so I don't want to join your group. You don't have to say that, but having boundaries, it's okay to not do something that you don't want to do. That's also part of boundaries. So the next level for the boundaries. Okay, Taylor says equal exchange of energy. Yes, exactly. It doesn't have to be equal, but it has to be balanced. Okay, so because sometimes you give so much that it could not possibly be translated into whatever someone can pay you, right? But they pay you something, whatever you charge. So that's a balanced exchange. You might be giving them, you might have changed their whole life. You might have planted the seed that's going to make them a billionaire one day. But there is no way to like put a fair, equal price on it, right? But you charge what you want, and that's what gets paid. So this is going to be fun, you guys. This is the next level. This is where my boundaries really got tested, okay? Or lack of thereof. Is a few, well, not so this was like about 4 years ago. Let's fast forward, like, then this experience that I just described was about 3 years ago. Then actually there's a little more of a story before I go to that phase that I'm just mentioning, because that last phase is kind of going to be the closer towards our conclusions. Okay, so there was one more story. So that one more story is about 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, in a very dark place, like no money in my business still. Already 3rd year running business. Basically no money whatsoever. Constantly still borrowing money. Not charging what I want. Not even knowing what I want to charge. Not really even sure I want to be in this industry. Not sure what industry I want to be in. So conducting these readings for myself all the time, which was such a huge thing. So that was something that I was definitely committed to. Not spewing my channeling onto bars at strangers as much anymore, although it still sometimes occasionally happened. and just kind of generally just trying really, really hard to figure it out and not really succeeding. So I went to this show and I offered to, at this point, I started going to the other end of no boundaries. At that point, I was like, okay, I don't know what to charge. I don't know if I'm good enough to charge for anything. So let me just do free work, which is like, sounds like it's regressing, right? Free work. Great, awesome. I would convince people to let me do something for them for free. And I would kind of justify it in my mind, like, oh, if I do this for free, they're going to hire me when I pitch. But I would never pitch. I would just do this free work and I would resent myself, like, what is wrong with me? So this pattern of saying no to that woman kind of continued playing out, where I wasn't even accepting money anymore. I was just constantly borrowing, feeling completely worthless, and just trying to convince people to give me free work. So I convinced a friend to give me free work. And it was something like, hey, could you, a friend of mine that we met, we had a conversation, it was really nice. And my friend was like, hey, my husband or my boyfriend is having an art show. And this is really nothing to do with them. They're wonderful people. We're still very, very close friends. Good for you, Caleb. You got this. You got this. We all, it takes a journey, but you know what? Once you learn, you can never unlearn. So just trust that once you, like, it clicks for you, and like once you really polish that, it never regresses from that point on. It doesn't. It just does not. Okay, so as hard as it is to get there, you totally got this. So, oh God, so this friend of mine says, hey, I see you going around town and filming all these films, all these live videos all the time. So if you would like, you know, and she took me out to lunch and she was like, if you would like, my husband or my boyfriend is doing this show, this art show. So, you know, if you want, you can come and check it out. And I was like, oh, I'll come, I'll do the live video. I'll talk about his work. And I went there and it was really actually a great experience. And he told me about his art, very, very fascinating, gorgeous art. And I did this live video and it was like, and so we were talking about money, and basically one of his art pieces was about like this World Bank or like something, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like a huge bank, and it was like very kind of almost esoteric, like very complex piece of art where there was so many symbols and so many things. And he was saying, like, basically like, well, you know, I think money is like ruins people so many times. Money just, you know, it's such a strange medium of exchange, and some people just, you know, chase after it, and they become all about money. And I was like, that's so interesting, fascinating. He's like, yeah, it is. And I was like, oh, by the way, I just wanted to ask you, how much is this piece? And he was like, I don't remember what he said, but he was like, $10,000, $5,000. I don't remember. It was like a big sum of money. And I was like, wow. He's like, yeah. And it's funny because this bank or this law firm or whatever bought it, and it's going to be in their lobby. Isn't that cool? And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And he's like, yeah, it's a little ironic though, isn't it? Because the way that I think about money, you know, it's like kind of ironic that that's what they're going to hang. I don't even know if they realized that that was the intention with which I made this piece. And I was like, that's genius. That's so brilliant. And then they walked away. And we stood in the parking lot and talked a little bit. He's like, hey, thank you so much for this video. Didn't really expect it to be an interview. Like, I thought you just, you know, kind of look at my work and maybe post something, but that was nice. Thank you so much for spending your time doing this. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, yeah, you're welcome to come, you know, have dinner with us one day and like something. And it's just very lovely, friendly conversation. And these are friends. These are really good people. But I went home and I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Okay. It wasn't even about doing this interview. It wasn't about making this video. It was not. But it was like, this person who believes money changes people and money is so complex and it sometimes ruins people. He has made an artwork, an art piece that communicates his feelings. And he sold the art piece to a bank or a law firm or whatever it is. And me, meanwhile, I don't even create any, like, I don't even allow myself to charge anything. I don't even ask people to pay me anymore. I just ask if I can do it for free. And this person who believes money can ruin people sometimes, he still put a price tag on his piece of art and he sold it already. And no matter how he feels about the money, he doesn't have a problem charging for his work. But why do I? Why do I? It was such again, such a strange experience where I was kind of observing myself from a side and going like, what's wrong with what I do? What's wrong with what I do? Just even like the videos that I make, the interviews that I take, all of these things. And I could create so much more, but what is my problem? And so I made this YouTube video that's still around and I don't share it, but oh my God, it is so, I cannot watch it. It's like, it's too much. I can't watch it. I tried one time. I was like, never watching this again. I might share it. I might share it one day. I thought about sharing it in this experience, but I don't think I'm there yet, okay? I think I'm gonna share that video when I make my first million, honestly. I think that's gonna be my timeline for it, for the release. But this video was like me basically after this art show, just crying on the couch, saying, oh my God, every month I borrow money from my mom to help pay rent. Like sometimes I'm able to pay maybe like 50% of it. And not to mention food and things like that. I don't even charge for my work. Why? I feel so worthless. That's why. That's where I tapped into it. I was like, I feel so worthless. But the feeling of worthlessness was not being cured by the fact that I was convincing people to give me free work. Was it? No, it was perpetuated by that. So I was like committed to having no boundaries on such a deep level. So it annoyed me that the person who believes that money can ruin people and money can be such a strange medium of exchange, it so annoyed me that even though his beliefs were such, he had enough boundaries to charge for this genius piece of art that made it to a museum, and the bank that he actually bought it sponsored the show, I think. Or I'm not sure how it was connected, but somehow it was all connected. And I was like, he has boundaries and I do not. And I was there taking his interviews and it never dawned on me to ask to be paid for my work. I didn't even ask. And someone who literally offered to pay for my work, I told them no. I was like, nope, you can't. Okay, so that's insane. I was like, so I had this breakdown video and I made it. And you know what, you guys, I made it only because I knew one day I would be in such a different place. And I would look back and share it one day and be like, that's where I used to be. And here's where I am now. And this journey, if I can make it, you can make it. So that's why I decided to tap into that feeling and record it. But I left that video public on YouTube for a while. And I just thought no one watched, no one cared, no one would find it. It's just my YouTube, no one knows about it. It's mostly Facebook that I do, mostly sometimes Instagram. So I just kind of left it there in public access. And a few months later, I was attending this business meeting where a person was sharing about her. She had a service. She was basically doing like high-level tutoring that would get kids into Ivy League schools. It was a very fascinating idea. It was like she was doing not any kind of just random tutoring, but she was tutoring kids to get accepted into Ivy League school. And of course she went to one, and she was not from a privileged family by any means, but she was like extremely smart, incredible, and her rate of getting kids into Ivy League schools was like super high. I was like, wow, that's a brilliant business idea. And I was listening to her presentation. I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I came up to her and I was like, hey, I have so many content ideas. I would love to like show you. I would love to work with you for a little while so you can see You know, how free work basically is what I was telling to her. I was like, hey, if I can just prove myself. And she just looked at me. She was like, I think she was even younger than me a little bit. She just looked at me. She's like, if I want to work with you, I will definitely pay you. I am not comfortable with hiring someone to work for free. And I was like kind of bewildered by that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. She was like, yeah, so let's meet. Let's talk about this. And I was like, okay, that sounds awesome. So we met at a coffee shop, same coffee shop. It's a small town. There's one coffee shop that I liked, basically. And, or my favorite one. And so we met at this coffee shop a few weeks later. And I brought some ideas, and I was sitting there with a notebook. I was excited. I was like, oh, I can't wait to share this with her. And I opened the notebook, and she sits down, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad to see you again. I have so many ideas. She was like, before you go into that, I want to have a difficult conversation with you. And I was like, that's a stranger. Like, what is she talking about? I hardly know her. What possibly? I was kind of excited almost. I was like, what is she going to say? Like, I can't wait to hear this. What is she going to say? And she said, I looked you up. Your social profiles are pretty impressive. I love what you do around town, how you film and all of that. She's like, but I found your video on YouTube about your recent crisis. And I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, I was working through some emotions. She's like, no, that's not it. She was like, you have issues with boundaries. And I'm not saying this to you to upset you, but if you get upset, I understand. But I want to tell you, I would love to work with you because you're clearly brilliant, but I'm not open to working with you because you've got to heal this first. Because I don't work with people for free. I don't provide free things. And as brilliant as you are, you need to heal your self-worth because it doesn't look like you have done that yet. So let's talk in maybe a year from now. And I was like, what? I was sitting there like, and the one thing I kept thinking was, I should have removed this video. But the other thing that I kept thinking about was, maybe it's good that it was a public video. Maybe it's good that I heard that from a woman who is my age or younger, who doesn't have this issue. So I was like, I was just sitting there like looking at her like this, and she was like, and she said, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. She's like, are you offended? It's okay if you are. I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, you're so right. It's bizarre. Like, but I'm grateful to hear this because honestly, I need to hear this. She's like, I was not expecting this. I was expecting many different things that could have happened, but I believe that you're really amazing, that you have so much to give to this world. You probably don't even know yet half of your talents. She's like, you're just great. But you're not going to be able to do this, anything, until you fix this, until you work on this, until you believe and accept that you're worthy and start acting like it, and start setting boundaries for your work, for yourself. And I was like, wow, yeah. So I was like, I was like, hey, would you, since you took the time to share this with me, would you be open to like, where do I start? And she was like, well, start by accepting that you're worthy. And she was like, and second, you got to realize, when you do free work, do you think people really appreciate that? And I was like, well, I guess they do because they let me. And she's like, yeah, they let you because you convinced them to, but do you think they appreciate that? Do you think they value what you do? And I had to think about that. And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I don't think so. She's like, yeah, because they don't pay for it. And no one appreciates that. And while she was saying that memory flashed of that woman that enjoyed my reading, enjoyed my channeling, who asked if she could pay for it, please, because she valued it. She wanted an exchange to take place. And I told her no. And she immediately kind of withdrew. She went like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Because I didn't allow my work to be valued. And it was a pattern. And I was like, oh, shit. Ah, that makes so much sense now. Wow. And she was like, yeah, so when you don't charge for your work, people don't appreciate it. But if you charge for your work, this was huge, you guys. So buckle up. She's like, when you charge for your work what you want, not the least you possibly can, but what you want, you run a risk of someone saying no. You run a risk of someone saying, I don't want to pay this much. And because you don't have any boundaries, you take that personally. You take that as if that means something about you, as if you are rejected. Not your offer, but you as a whole entirety of who you are is rejected when you're told no. And I was like, wow, that is some next level. I was like, what? She's like, should I stop here or should I keep talking? I was like, please, I think I should pay you now. And she's like, no, this is a gift. This energy, you don't know right from left with the charging, paying. No offense, but this is just a gift. Consider this universe is paying you back for all the free work, unappreciated free work you've been doing for people. Let's just call it a gift back from the universe. I was like, yes, please, thank you. Okay, what? And I'm like taking notes. She's like, okay, so when you charge for your work what you want, and you're rejected, you think you're rejected or your offer is rejected, you can no longer be the better than everyone. No boundaries, girl. That is so much better than everyone else that she doesn't even charge for her work because she's afraid of hearing no. She's like, how much of yourself do you actually put in when you do free work? And I was like, well, I try to do my absolute best, but honestly, it's so draining. She's like, yeah, because you're not getting paid for what you do. So she's like, so what's the quality of your work like? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. Because I put no value on it. I put no price on it. I just want to give something and I don't know how. And so it ends up being whatever. And she's like, yeah. So you're also not holding yourself accountable to this level of work because you're not charging for it. So when something comes up or you don't feel like it, you can just not show up and you can say, hey, I'm not charging for it. So I don't have to show up if I don't want to. I only do this if I want to. And I only do this however I want to. And there is no expectation. There is nothing to live up to. There is no exchange. It's just me working for free. She's like, so you're robbing people of the ability to actually value your work. You're robbing yourself of the ability to really show up and like own 100% and be a little bit scared, like because you were really showing up because you're getting paid for it, holding yourself accountable, doing something that people will value because they literally do because they just paid you for it. And you're also afraid so much of hearing that no, which because you have no boundaries, you take personally. If you had boundaries, you put out an offer, someone says no, that's not for me, it's not in my budget. You go like, okay, that's fine. I still love you. You're still great. Okay, next person. Next person will, whatever. Not like next, I don't care about you now, but like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. It's not about you, it's about the offer. But you take it so personally, it is about you when you hear no. So you don't want to ever hear no. So you go around convincing people to give you free work. And it was just like, mind blown. I was like, what? Totally like blew my mind. I was like, what? Holy smokes. So that conversation changed a lot of things for me. And I started charging. I couldn't really get traction because it wasn't a point of charging anymore. It was more about the point of rejection. So I was afraid that still afraid that I would be personally rejected when someone said no to my pricing or offer. So I didn't really present my offers all that often, but I stopped doing the free work. That was huge. And another level that happened, this is where we're getting closer to the kind of conclusion part, but this is like the ultimate boundaries activator. So I want to hear see the comments. Amy says, "You're speaking to me, girlfriend." I'm so glad to hear that. Taylor said, "Oh, very sincere." So hold on one second. I feel like I'm behind. Oh no, I'm not quite behind. So Margarita said very sincerely, "Oh yeah, so it's good to see you here, Margarita. Thank you so much for being here." So Taylor also said, "I'm so proud of you. Yes, look at you now. I appreciate your transparency and openness to share." So that's the reason I decided to do this masterclass. I feel like it's so important to like have this level conversation where it's not about like, hey, I love talking about the things that I've mastered. I love it, love it, love it. I love it. I do. I sincerely do. And I feel like that's where I can bring most value because I'm good at it, right? But I'm realizing now it's not quite always like that. Because like, yes, absolutely, it's true. But it's also true that the things that you haven't fully mastered yet, you can sometimes bring even more value in because you get to walk with someone who is there also walking. You might be a few steps ahead, but you get to walk together and you get to support each other on this walk. So it's a next level for me. I just finished a 10-day private coaching retreat with my coach. It was amazing, amazing, amazing. I would love to hire her for full time. I'm not on that level of investment yet, but one day I will be, and it's going to be beautiful. But I'm so grateful for the time we spent together, and that retreat inspired this level of sharing because she told me, hey, you're holding yourself back from truly sharing, not from the place of you're an expert, but from a place of here's what I'm working on. And there are people in your life that are also working on it, and you get to create a true sisterhood, a true bond with them because you get to walk together. So I was like, oh wow, that is really true. So, but I've never really played with that ever until now. So I'm really excited for this experience. So let's see other comments. So Kayla said, recently raised my prices and had an honest to God panic attack just updating the page. I've been there, done that. Oh my God, it feels so scary sometimes. Taylor says, holding yourself accountable. So yes, I love all these, love all these comments. Taylor says, love this so much. I love you so much. This is really amazing. So here's the biggest boundaries activator. So far it's like been boundaries awareness journey. Like what are boundaries, right? And remember, you guys, I mentioned in the story that this friend of mine who also did a reading for me that really told me like, hey, you have zero boundaries. Like, why are you harassing random people at a bar who haven't requested a reading? Why are you doing a reading when they tell you to leave? Like, why? Remember, I got annoyed that she had a client call and she told me she was going to do the client call and that she's going to be available in an hour. Remember, I told you how I was slightly annoyed. I didn't tell her that, but I felt slightly annoyed because I didn't respect women who had boundaries. Rather, I respected the women. I didn't respect their boundaries. And I was annoyed that someone else had boundaries, much like I was annoyed that this artist that had these philosophical thoughts about how money is not always the clean energy of exchange, how it can be weird sometimes. He had no problem charging for his work. He had no problem selling his work. He had no problem being sponsored at that show. I was annoyed by that because he clearly, with all his philosophical thoughts, he still had money boundaries that I did not possess. I was slightly annoyed that this girl who was telling me all the things that I so needed to hear and I was so grateful, I could not help myself but be annoyed that she's not going to work with me. Even though she clearly could, but she didn't want to because I had no boundaries, and I was annoyed that she had the boundaries to even tell me that she wasn't going to work with me. I was like, what? On some deep level. That was never vocalized. I never told the artist or my friend or this woman that shared with me so generously what I needed to hear. I never told them, but I felt it. I was annoyed. I was like, how come they have the boundaries that I do not have yet? How did they get those boundaries? And why do I not have any myself? So the biggest activator last year, actually. So I started, my boundaries improved. I started, actually, it helped that I started actually working with my mom a lot more. So although I was borrowing money from her all the time to help pay my rent, I started showing up as much as I could in her business and like selling her art and doing whatever she would needed me to do. And it started helping with my self-esteem. I was like, okay, I am in a tough situation. There is work available that I can do, that I can at least be of value. And in exchange, my mom helps me pay my rent. So instead of feeling like I'm constantly borrowing and never repaying, I can start feeling like I'm earning whatever I can earn. That felt really good. So I started doing a lot of work for her. And then last year, actually a little over than a year ago at this point. So when the pandemic hit, I was actually had a few clients that paid me really good whatever I asked. Basically, I came up with this offering. It was something that felt good to me, so I offered it, and they paid it. They were like, love this idea. And then it happened, the COVID happened, and basically all of the events were canceled. So whatever promotional package I sold, the events were not going to happen anymore. So they were like, okay, well, you can do something for us still. And I was like, you know what, guys, like, I don't think it's going to be over anytime soon. So I just gave them a refund. Something I did manage to do and that they valued was like a written plan that I created for them. But then the rest of it, I refunded because I was like, no, like, I don't feel right about keeping the money that it is not going to be used for foreseeable future, because I know I'm going to spend it. So let's just refund this. And they were like, okay. So I was like, okay. So I was like, well, this is totally out of control. So that's when I started doing readings, because I was like, I just felt it. It was time. It was a shift. I was activated. I started dating my now husband. Again, we reconnected after 4 years since we like first dated. And we were like really hitting it off, and so things were kind of good, and I felt okay. I had a little bit of financial, it wasn't even an egg nest. It was like I didn't spend all the money that I made, so I was like, okay, for a while I'm gonna be okay. And so I felt okay. I felt secure. And I was like, you know what, since everything's closed and everyone's stuck, and I saw these musicians going live, and I saw, you know, DJs host live events and so on and so forth. So I was like, okay, so let me try this. Let me just go live and start doing the readings. Because at this point, I have mastered tarot after years and years of practice. I was ready. Like, I didn't need to book. I didn't need to look anything up. I could just pull cards and channel. And I basically just did tarot. So it had Tarot Tuesday and Tarot Thursday. And I did that for a few months. Nonstop, like every single Tuesday and Thursday. And what started was I wasn't doing it, I was doing it like I do live readings, but I asked for donations. I said, like, if you enjoy my reading, here's how you can send me a tip. And all of a sudden, I started making more tips than I ever made, trying to charge whatever I tried to charge in my business before. It was wild. Sometimes they would send me like $10, $20, $50, one time $100. I was like, what, $100 for like one card? Like, what are you kidding me? That's crazy. But someone was like, you really, like, you tapped into something that I was struggling with so long. I just want to support you. I just want to send you this much. And I was like, great. So I started accepting payments for my energy. And it started feeling so good. And my now husband, then boyfriend, was like, hey, he watched a few of those. Because I started right around the time we started dating. I didn't really tell him. He was like, hey, I watched your video. And I was like, really? He's like, you're really good at this. Like, you're such an amazing speaker. And even like we dated like 4 years ago. And apparently he confessed to a little thing. He was like, you know, every now and then I would watch your videos. Like, I didn't have like some weird crush on you or something. Like, I always, you know, I thought things ended between us like the way that they did. But every now and then I would see your video and I would be like, wow, she's a really good speaker. And I was like, well, thank you. He was like, yeah, but you're welcome, but like, hey, I saw your reading the other night. You're really good. Like, you're really, really good. And I was like, thank you. He's like, no, I mean, like, this should be a full-time business, like COVID or no COVID, like, you should do this. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, you know what? The thing is, this is the one thing I love most. And he was like, well, then why not? Clearly people love it. And he's like, are they, are they tipping you? I was like, yeah, more than I made intentionally in my business. He's like, well, that's maybe a sign. And I was like, maybe it is. So I decided I'm going to change my business. I'm going to start doing readings. Whatever that meant. I didn't know where it was going to take me, how long it was going to take me. And then the biggest activator happened. Oh man, it was rough. Because the biggest activator was when I came across this woman whom I mentioned quite a bit, Melanie Ann Layer. And that was a little less than a full year ago. So I was already doing readings. I started charging for them. First I had like an $18 version. Then I had some coaching from someone. And she was like, hey, let's work on the prices. And I was like, okay. So I was like, I calibrated upwards. I paid her more than I ever charged. For like an hour, I paid her $222. I hardly had that in my bank. And I knew I would have to do like 8 to 10 readings to compensate for that. I didn't know if they would come, when they would come in. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is my next level. And it was right on, because she told me some really good ways. She said, you really are a coach. You realize that? I was like, no, I don't like that word. She's like, why? You need to work on that. You really are a coach. Casey, you're right. But listen to this one, okay? Casey knows. So the 1 hour woman was not Melanie. It was Emily Ann Whiteside. She's really quite amazing. At the time, she was focusing more on like psychic coaching, psychic business coaching. Now she's more of a not intimacy, but like unleash kind of your goddess sex power, which is also very, very beautiful, activating, amazing. But at the time, it was specifically because she was doing psychic business coaching. And I was like, okay, I'm a psychic person. My business is psychic. I need her business coaching for my business. I just knew it in her energy. I felt it. And I was like, it was a yes. And I hardly had that money. And it was so scary spending that much of myself. I was like, oh my God, $200. Oh my God. I told that to my husband. He was like, you spent how much? And I was like, yeah, I know. But he's like, but you think it's going to help your business? I was like, I think I already did the session with her. So I think it's like going to change everything. He's like, well, okay, then it's a worthy investment. And I was like, thank you for believing that. We were living together. So at that point already. So I appreciate the support, obviously, but so I did the coaching session, and Emily told me, you really are a coach. And I was like, okay, never thought that. She was like, you really are. What are your readings about? And I was like, life, business, relationships. She's like, that's called coaching. And I was like, okay, never thought about it, but okay. She's like, yeah, you need to heal your relationship with the word coach. And I was like, okay, I'll work on that. She's like, and here's she's like, okay, so what would you want to have? I was like, well, I would love to have a $10,000 month one day, sometime in the future. I don't know. She's like, okay, well, having $18 readings, how are you going to manifest that? How many readings are you going to have to do to have a $10,000 month? I was like, oh my God. Too many to do in 1 month. And she's like, yeah, so you're going to have different investment levels, different programs, different things. So I was like, okay, interesting. So she taught me a lot in just that one session. She gave me all she could in that hour. And I was will forever be grateful for that, because it changed for me. It changed things for me dramatically, but it didn't happen all in one swoop, right? So I've integrated her 1 hour coaching over time. And I also did then another program with her, but that's not the subject. We're going to talk more about business tomorrow. But today, for the boundaries, the biggest activator is the juiciest little piece. So Casey kind of knew where I was going with this, but Melanie Ann Layer happened to me. And it happened, she happened to me in such a spontaneous, it was such a oh my God, it was so freaking uncomfortable. Because you guys hear this story out, it's wild. So I had this woman. So after Emily's training, after Emily's coaching that I bought, and then a program that I did with her, which was $2,000, which was so scary for me. I had to do monthly or like bi-weekly payments, and I hardly even had enough. A few times my payment bounced, and I would have to like ask her to wait one more day to charge my card again. But I made it. Like, it was worth it. I felt no shame. And I was like honest with her. I was like, hey, listen, Melanie, like, this isn't, you know, this is all I can do. Like, I need this though. She's like, I know you do, which is why I have this option. You got this. Like, it doesn't offend me that a few times your card bounced. Like, I know where you are. I think this is going to change things for you. And it did. So after Melanie's teachings and coaching and mentorship, so what happened was I said, hey, you guys, my $18 readings are going away. I'm raising my prices. And I was like, just to honor everyone who has been thinking about it, today's the last day to book that $18 reading. And this woman who was in my friend list, she commented, she was like, oh, I want one so bad. I'm sending you the $18. I was like, okay. And I should not have made that available because I was already not on the level of $18 readings. I should have said my prices have now been raised because I didn't feel in alignment with that price anymore. But I learned my lesson. But when she booked that $18 reading, it already felt bad. Even though I was feeling pretty good about that before, it already felt like, I don't know about this. Like, something's not right. In me, it wasn't her fault necessarily, but it was just like me. And I was like, something's off. So I did this $18 reading and I gave it as much as I could. And she was like, she messaged me back later on. She's like, oh my God, I was crying. This is so amazing. This is so deep. You're so amazing. You're so gifted, blah, blah, blah. So touched. And she did like a testimony in my group. I didn't even ask her for one, but I asked for a review if she ever like felt inclined, and she did that, and she did a testimony. And we just connected, and she was also Russian. I'm half Russian. I speak Russian as my first language, in case you guys don't know. So I grew up in Moscow, and I moved to the United States when I was 15, so 13 years ago. Anyway, she was Russian, so we spoke Russian to each other. She also was fluent in English, so we had this connection. And then she something happened. Something very weird happened. My boundaries were tested again, because she started messaging me all the time, basically every day. And sometimes it would feel like a conversation, like two girls talking to each other, like, hey, oh yeah, I thought this, and oh yeah, I thought that. But then she kind of started asking me questions all the time. What do you think about this? What do you think about my branding? What do you think about this business move? Well, I'm thinking about launching this program. What do you feel about this? And a few times I responded, and at some point I got such a deep, full-bodied no. I was like, why does she keep doing this? Like, she booked an $18 reading, and I gave it my all. And she showed appreciation for it, but it's almost like this connection never ended. It's like she's continuing to ask questions kind of about the reading, but also kind of about something else completely. And I was like, every day, to the point where one time I was like, it was Thanksgiving this year, and in the US, and I guess she was in some other country. I don't want to get specific. I don't want to use any names whatsoever, because this is not a positive experience for me. She was in a different country. Where they did not celebrate Thanksgiving. Not Russia though. But regardless, she was like, and then she wouldn't stop messaging me. And then she tried to I don't remember if she tried to call me or she called me by accident over Facebook Messenger. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is enough. And I was like, listen, it's Thanksgiving in the United States. Like, I'm with my family. Can you please stop? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't want you to feel bad, but this isn't appropriate. Like, you're asking me all these questions. I understand when we're having a conversation just about life, just because we're talking, but you're like asking for my coaching, but you paid $18 for reading and I finished it. So what's up? And she said, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I would love to pay for your coaching. And I wasn't even really offering it yet. She's like, I don't even know how much but I would love to pay for your coaching. A message sent. I'm reading it like, okay. I feel like that has a but coming. And it came. She was like, but you've been so generous with me and I so much appreciate it. But I'm spending like $1,500 or $1,300 every month for this membership, this high-end membership with this woman, Melanie Ann Layer. And I was like, okay, so you're telling me you spent $18 on my reading and you want me to continue coaching you, but you're also spending $1,300 somewhere else. And so I was like, okay, so I immediately asked, I was like, so why are you telling me this? Like, what's going on? Like, why do you even have to tell me this? She's like, well, it's because, it's so expensive and it takes basically all of my budget, and it's really awesome. It's really amazing. But that group that I'm part of, the women inside they trigger me so much. They're just all so successful and I'm just starting and blah, blah, blah. So she could say, I was like, hey, you know what? No offense, but like, I don't want to hear that. Like, you're telling me that you are basically taking advantage of whatever I'm telling you here for free. And now that I said it's not going to continue, you finally are saying that you would love to pay for my coaching, but you can't. So you want to do it for free. Okay. I don't do that anymore. So I don't care where you spend your money or how much you're getting out of it or not getting out of it. I don't do that. So please don't bother me. And she was like, oh, again, I'm so sorry. I understand. Like, I won't bother you again. And I was like, okay, well, no offense taken and good luck. And so on and so forth. Whenever you feel ready to work with me, I'm here for you. But if not, I don't do the free anymore. She was like, okay, that's understandable. So, but I had this kind of bothered feeling about it because I was like, who is this Melanie Ann Layer? What is that person? I felt like I heard that name before somewhere. I was like, what is she doing? What's that $1,300 membership? What's the deal? So I just kind of thought about that. And then this woman who was basically trying to get me to work for free, which I was already past in my boundaries, she went ahead and she copied my entire profile. She called herself a psychic coach. She basically like copied my entire, and maybe, I don't think it was personal, but I was so annoyed by it. I was so upset. I was like, so we have this conversation where I'm telling you I can't really continue this free work, and then you go ahead and overnight you just basically copy the entire thing that I have. And she's like, I didn't even wait for a response. So I put it on don't accept messages from this person on Facebook. And after I did that, she went ahead and blocked me. So I was like, okay, well, that's the way it ends then. It was not a good feeling. It was some weird vibe. But what stuck with me was I felt all right about it, though, because I felt like I defended my boundaries. I felt like I was like, okay, I said no at some point finally. And then I also kind of prevented further communication because it just felt like it was a weird vibe of like trying to take something from me, even though I wasn't giving it or comfortable giving it, right? So I was like, no, I don't even know what that is, but no. So that name, Melanie Ann Layer, stuck with me. So there was a moment shortly after this, probably late November, early December, so like after Thanksgiving at some point, where I was like, finally, I couldn't like shake the feeling anymore. I was like, I gotta find out who that woman is. Who is that? I heard that name before. I gotta see. So I went and I looked her up and I found her and I caught her going live on a video. Caught her like doing this, what I'm doing right now. And I was like, ooh, okay, let's see. And I see this gorgeous woman luxury vibes. She had that like kind of shirt off her shoulder like this, like she's just sitting there like goddess, just nails vibes. She's just like talking and sharing. And she says, she's like in bed or something. It's so weird. Not in bed, but she's like in some very like casual setting. And she's like, ladies, you're not going to believe this. We are about to hit $1 million in 1 month. And I'm like, what the fuck? $1 million in how long? In what? What? In 1 month? I was like, what? How is this possible? I was so triggered. I was like, what the hell is this? And I had to look away. It was like too much. I was like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. I can't, whatever this is, I don't understand it. So I went away. I liked her energy, but it totally triggered me. It's like, she's beautiful, she's goddess, but I'm not ready for this. No. And so in this journey with boundaries, I finally ran into a woman whom I've only heard of as someone who charges $1,300 at the time. Now it's $1,500, I believe. But it was like $1,300 at the time for a monthly membership. And when I looked her up finally, she had $1 million for a month. And there was someone paying her $1,300 when they only paid me $18. It was like I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this. But it was like something caught my attention. And she started showing up for me everywhere. She accepted my friend request. I was like, I'll just send her a friend request just for fun. She accepted my friend request. And so I started seeing her post everywhere. And it was like a plague. It was like all over in my face every day. I was like, fuck. Why is she showing up everywhere I look? Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. What is the universe trying to tell me? And I felt like she was so far above me because someone who didn't want to pay me for my honest like coaching was paying her for a membership where she didn't even talk to them. She taught some things, but she wasn't like doing one-on-one things. I was like, who is this woman? And why do I keep seeing her? She's clearly so far above me. People are paying her $1,300 and she won't even do one-on-one coaching with them. But how? So I kept seeing her, and then one time, closer to New Year's, something hit. I saw her and I asked myself, what if she's not above me? What if she's just such a next level version that I just have no idea how to get there yet? What if she's not there to intimidate me or to make me feel less than? What if she's there for me to learn from? And I decided to listen to what she had to say. And all of a sudden, I heard a completely different story. I heard a completely different transmission. And it spoke to me so deeply. And the offerings she was offering a public speaking course that was just going to come out this year. She was offering this program called Cash that was about aligned sales that I was like, oh, I so need this. She was talking about an offer. She was like, if you can't afford any of these things, there's a starting point. I have these prosperity codes. It's like it's a small thing. It's a smaller thing. It's a recording and it's a Q&A that was already recorded. You can join that. It's only $222. I've spent that before on Emily, on that coaching session that really helped, but I didn't have it in my bank account at the time when Melanie was talking. And I was like, I can't even afford the smallest offering. And for a second, I had this choice of go like, that woman, I hate her for having these boundaries, for having these price points. But I was like, wait a minute. If I do that, that means I also can't have these boundaries. I also can't charge these prices. What if I make peace with what she's charging? What if I accept that if I want one of her programs or all of them or whatever, that when their timing is right, I'm going to do it? What if I accept that? What if I don't make it mean something about me? I remember the girl at the coffee shop that told me she doesn't want to work with me because I have worth issues and I need to heal them. She said, when you are rejected, when your offer is rejected, it's not you being rejected, it's the offer. It's because it's not in alignment for someone else. So it's not personal. And I was like, what if I don't make it personal about this woman? What if I don't make her out to be evil because she's charging these prices? What if I just accept that it's a no for me now, but if that's something that's in alignment with me, it's going to be a yes at some point. And I just be okay with that. So that's what I decided. And I decided I want to do the public speaking course with her, the storytelling course. I want to do that cash program. I want to have those prosperity codes, whatever that is. I want to be in her vibe. I want to learn from her. I love her energy. I decided to love her even though I couldn't be in her world yet, not to the capacity that I immediately wanted. And so I let it go and I watched it and I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, this woman, look, showed her my phone. I was like, look at her. She's celebrating another $1 million month. And my mom was like, what? Doing what? And I was like, coaching, creating magical programs and just being magic. She's like, okay, I don't think I'm getting that, but okay, whatever you say. And I was like, you know what, Mom, I'm going to do a public speaking course with her one day. She's like, okay, good. You do that if you can afford it. And I was like, oh, I will. One day I will. And now, since that Thanksgiving or around that time, so much has changed in my business. I've done those prosperity codes. I'm in the public speaking program. I'm in the cash program with Align Sales. It's so amazing. It's literally so amazing. The point is, I calibrated myself to the point of working with this woman to the capacity that I desire. It didn't happen through seeing her as someone that I despise because of the boundaries that she has. It came from appreciating her boundaries and learning how to have my own. It came from saying no to that woman who was basically demanding free coaching from me. It came from raising my own prices. It came from when I go live and I pull cards and someone sends me a DM and goes like, hey, can you do, I didn't get selected on your card pull. I want to get a card still. I really need one. I say no. I don't do free readings. But you do them on your life. Yes. And I select people that are present. And if you don't get selected, you don't get selected. You can always book a reading. Always. But you're going to need to pay for it. Oh, but how can you? That's my boundary. I understand now that whoever doesn't understand my boundaries, they don't have their own. And the weird thing is, I've been there. I know what it's like to get offended at other people's boundaries because you don't have any of your own. There was a woman this week, on Saturday. So technically, like, it's late at night already, but it's technically kind of like still Sunday going on to Monday. On Saturday, so technically kind of like yesterday, I drove into this town where I used to live because I went to the healing, it's called God's Acre Healing Springs. It's like a little healing springs place in South Carolina where there's this water that was believed by Native Americans to be sacred and holy. And it's really tasty, delicious, natural spring water, which is amazing. So I drove to get some of that water because I don't drink tap water. My husband does. He makes fun of me. That's all right. He can drink all the tap water he wants. I don't like it. It tastes bad to me. I don't like it. So, and I don't like buying water either because it's just like, it's kind of ridiculous. So I love going to that spring and getting a bunch of water. So I got a lot of water from that magical healing spring. And I drove through that old town where I used to live, going around bars, being the no boundaries girl. And I went to the old bar where I used to actually be a part-time server because I couldn't make my business pay the bills. So I was picking up whatever gigs I could get to make more money. And I don't drink right now for just because I don't feel like it. It's not a like lifetime decision, but I haven't been in vibrational alignment to alcohol for over a month now. So I went in there and I just wanted some food, and I sat at the bar though because I like sitting at the bar, and I got some club soda with lime and just some food. And I was sitting there, and there was this woman. I heard something from I heard crying. There was a woman sitting there crying, but I energetically, even without making eye contact, because I do not make eye contact just randomly, because I'm so, you guys, it's like a whole separate subject. I'm so psychic with my eyes. It's very intense for me. Like the people that I love eye contact. The spiritual people that like are in my small circles, like my best friends or like my little spiritual geeky friends, like I love eye contact. It's because it's so activating. But random strangers at a bar, I don't do that. Like unless it's someone I know, I just don't. I can't. It's too much because like I read too much and I get too much information and it's overwhelming. But this woman, she was trying to make eye contact. I could tell, but she was crying like in a way that I could tell she was trying to get attention. And she was like crying, drinking, eating on her phone with an earphone, she had a foot on the other chair. And I was, for the first like 10 minutes I was sitting there and I was so annoyed by her. I was like, oh my God, this is so annoying. And then as I sat there longer, I was like, I've been this woman. Yep, I've been this woman trying to get attention, trying to project my energy, my readings, my emotions onto people at a bar while drinking and being all over the place. I've been this woman, the no boundaries girl. There she is. I'm not gonna look because I don't want to get into this. She's gonna tell me her whole life story. She's gonna dump her stuff on me like I did to other people. And being the no boundaries girl, I would dump my readings, my connections, my emotions on other people, or I would get over flooded with theirs. Like they would dump it on me, and either thing did not work. So I was like, I'm not gonna be annoyed by her. Without making eye contact or saying anything, I'm gonna send her so much love. Because I was literally that woman. So many times. That's why it's annoying to me, because like it's triggering this remembrance of being her, and it sucked, and I'm so far from that now, but it's a reminder. It was such a powerful reminder. I was like, wow, how far have I come? How far have I yet to go? Boundaries, a never-ending journey of balance, of giving and receiving. Tarot taught me so much about that. I talked yesterday how tarot changed my relationship with my body. Tarot changed, especially there's even the card, the Six of Pentacles, the balance card. How many times would I get it? Reversed, upright, all over the place, and I would be like, oh my God, when am I gonna master this balance? So tonight, as we come to our conclusion, I'm gonna read your comments in 1 second. I do want to tell you that you can feel free to ask me about my tarot course. send me a private message. It's an investment. Payment plans are available. We start on June 16th on Wednesday. It's going to be amazing. It's a course where I will teach you how to read for clients, how to be a professional tarot reader if you so desire. If you just want it for yourself, that's fine. It will have all the tools and beyond to do readings for yourself that will change your life, that will give you the power to know thyself on a level that you never thought was possible. But in addition to that, you can use this course as a tool to read for others professionally and charge for it, because there needs to be that exchange of energy. If you go around doing readings for others, not charging, not going to work. It's just going to deplete you. It's going to be the no boundaries situation. But if there is an exchange, it's a different story. And the other thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the private coaching retreats that I'm doing at the end of this month. But before I go there, let me just read the comments real quick. Okay, so we had a comment from Casey. How much are your readings now? So Casey, my readings are there's a reading that is always available. It's $111, and it's a combination of tarot and oracle cards. I do also specials. So recently I had a new moon special, and I'm still catching up. I had like 16 readings booked. I asked people, like Kayla actually booked one. She's still waiting for hers. I asked for like 48 to 72 hours. And then I was like, there's no way. I can't do 16 readings in 72 hours. So I've just been kind of, whenever someone asks, like, where's my reading? I'm like, hey, you're getting it, trust me. I'm almost caught up, though. I just have a few left. So this is really good, though. I like having too many readings booked. I really enjoy that. So that's amazing. But these specials are usually lower in price. So the most recent one was 66. The one previous to that was 55. And it just depends on whatever numbers comes up. I don't like coming up with numbers. I just let them kind of come to me. And it just is very good for my boundaries, because I don't feel like I need to figure something out or calculate something. It just comes to me. And then I'm like, okay, that's just the boundary that I'm going to set. That's just what I'm going to run with. So, Kayla says, I feel that... Oh, and Casey, if you ever need a reading, just message me and I'll send you the link. Or I'll send you my PayPal link. And it depends. The specials are usually just PayPal. And this permanent option that I have a link for it. Kayla says... Oh, actually, so the permanent option is like 2. I don't talk about the second one because it's so extensive, and it's like if someone says, if you have anything more. The more extensive option, it's like 15 cards. It's like super, it's like an hour at least of a recording. So that one is $222, but that's very rarely do I ever promote it or even mention it, because it's so deep, and like not everyone needs that kind of a session. So anyway, Kayla says, feel that alcohol has this weird energy that isn't in alignment. Yeah, and I love this sometimes, and I'm looking forward to, maybe, if my body feels good with this, having a glass of champagne for my birthday, because I feel like just to celebrate, it's such a special occasion. I love my birthdays. My husband is not like that. He said he never really cared about his birthday. He only cared about like when he was 25 because his insurance went down. I was like, well, that sounds crazily practical. I'm not like that. My birthday is like the most special day in the year for me. So different energy. I'm a Gemini. He's a Sag. So just different vibes. I find that most of my Sag friends don't really dig their birthday. It's just like another day to them. I don't know. Maybe it's not all of them, but most of the ones I've met, they're like, yeah, whatever. It's just another day. All the Geminis I've ever met make the biggest freaking deal out of their birthday, and so do Leos, weirdly enough. Just an observation. So, yeah, Kayla agrees with the alcohol statement. Full circle, said Casey. Yes, exactly. Taylor said, powerful reminder, always remember... Oh, of course you're a Leo, Kayla. That's so funny. First is the best day ever. See, I told you. Oh my God. So Taylor said, powerful reminder, always remember where you first started and gratitude to where you are today. Yes. and gratitude for where you're going to, because that's always exciting. Same here, just allow it and go for it. Yes. Okay, so yes, I love all of this. So I want to talk a little bit about the coaching. So I do private coaching. It's a sliding scale of rates. So it starts at $9.99 per month for just 1 month, up 1 to 3 months. Then it goes to $777 if it's a 6 to 9 month commitment. And then if it's a 9 to 12 month commitment, it goes to $555. So the longer you commit to, the less the price. That's just something that feels in alignment. And something that I'm doing at the end of June that I haven't really promoted much, there are very, very few spots for that, is a 444 2-week private coaching retreat with me, where it's Voxer only, but you basically have access to me all day. And it's a little bit, so the private coaching clients, the full-time private coaching clients that I currently have, they kind of have a multitude of things that we're working on. So it's their business, it's their life, it's their relationships, it's their vision, it's their gifts, psychic gifts. All of them have psychic gifts. It's developing those gifts, abilities, and just integrating, and business coaching. It's like really all areas of coaching, all areas of life. But this coaching retreat is really good for so it's kind of like a trial of what coaching looks like with me. But second, we get to work on something that you want to really focus on, like zero in on. And that's something that I would recommend going into, having a goal in mind, having like not even a specific goal, but having an area in mind. Like I really want to focus maybe more than one area. I really want to focus on this and this. I really want to focus on my gifts and my business. I really want to focus on my relationships and how to take myself to the next level. I really want to focus on what I charge and how I communicate my services. It doesn't matter, really doesn't, but it would be helpful if you knew what you were going in for, because I want us to have some visible, palpable, real results at the end of the 2 weeks. So it's 14 days, Voxer access every day, all day, every day. Obviously, knowing the boundaries, there will be times where I'm not there, but as soon as I'm back there, I check and I respond. Voxer is the app that works on voice, which I love. So we get to actually talk to each other. It's just not like one phone call or two. It's just we're talking throughout the day in increments. It will be client-led. In my full-time private coaching, there's a lot of things that I initiate with my clients. So I'll prompt them by sending a reading. I'll prompt them by asking what's going on. I'll prompt them by checking in. This 2-week retreat is, you can ask me as many times as you need, whatever areas you want, even if you're focusing on specific several areas, but we want to talk about more, and you have more things come up, like you're talking to me about business, or you're talking to me about psychic development, or you're talking to me about your life and relationships, but then something comes up with something else and you're like, oh my God, because that sometimes happens. And what inspired this retreat is the experience I had with my private coach that I've been just graduated from technically tonight. It was a 10-day retreat, and it was so good. And knowing that I only had 10 days, there was this drive to use it as much as possible, to like really initiate as many questions and conversations as possible. And it was really great. And I felt so good. And there was an actual transformation that happened through the 10 days that we were together for. So I decided to create something inspired by what I just experienced, and take my private coaching and turn it into this experience that is a little more affordable, and at the same time it's a little more spot specific. Like there is something to be expected to happen in the 14 days that we have together, because you'll know what day we're on, and you'll know how you're progressing with the areas that you want to focus on, and you'll know what areas you want to talk about next as this period goes on, right? So this is going to be very client-led. So this is going to be very you-centric, where you are initiating a lot. And I'm going to be there for you all day, every day, with breaks, with boundaries, but multiple times a day, there's going to be an exchange. But this is for someone who is like, you have an idea for what you want to really work on. It's not like, I guess a full-time private coaching is more like, this is overall, like you get this experience. There's no shortage of time. There is no time cutoff. You're committed either to 3 months or 1 or 5 or 6 or however many, right? But there's this like, okay, we have time. So let's relax into it and, really go deep. This is more like we're going deep, but we're going deep fast. Like there is progress every single day. And I feel really, really good about this. There's one spot that is already taken. I am anticipating about 4 spots total. Like this is what feels right in my body. But if it happens to be more, maybe up to like 6. But I would not be able to provide the support on this level of depth if it was significantly more than that number. So that's going to be around the cutoff. So it's going to be anywhere from 4 to 6. That's the number that's showing up for me. So if you feel like one of those is yours, feel free to message me. If 444 is a lot, which I totally understand because it has been a lot for me for a long time. And there are still times where it sometimes is. So if you would prefer a payment plan, I can break it up into $111 weekly or 222 monthly for 2 months. So these are the payment plan options in case you need one. You can ask. You can ask if you need a longer one. We'll talk about it. I like making really any payment plans available because it is what it is. You are where you are. And with a few of my clients, I've created payment plans and then the client would have something come in and they were like, hey, I'm ready to pay it off. I thought I would be paying it off for 12 months, but I've got the full amount. So what's your, so you never know what happens when these transformations take place. But this is for the one who really wants to go deep, fast, and have a transformation, some results, something that actually happens. Not in general, but in 2 weeks. So if you feel like you would like to know more, discuss, see, feel out, whatever you need to do, just message me. This is like a private conversation subject. So if you feel like you want to talk about this or considering this or need more info, just message me. Private coaching, I only am holding space for one spot, like long-term private coaching. I can only take one more person this month. And I haven't really been even talking about it much because there's only room for one more right now, because at the level that I do, the full-time private coaching, it takes me energy to take on an extra person. And right now the work that I'm doing with my current private coaching clients is pretty deep, pretty intense. So that's something that there's just one spot for. And then the tarot course, you can, of course, ask. So tarot course is an investment. It's $2,222, and there's custom payment plans available. I'm not even saying what payment plans are because it's very individual. Someone signed up today for 18 months. So 18 months of payments. That's fine. It doesn't make a difference to me. If it's something that you know that is for you, it is for you. If it's not, it's not. Regardless, I'm not attached to the outcome. And this is the biggest thing, and this is where I'm going to kind of finish this, is when you truly embody the boundaries. The price of your offering, it's no longer about you. It's no longer a question of, will someone pay this? It's like someone will. The right person, not just any someone. Someone who's not in alignment will not. And you can bend yourself backwards trying to convince them, and they're still not, because it's not for them. But it's no longer personal. It's a boundary. It is what it is. And if someone is not in alignment with a boundary with this, then it's not for them. So it's very simple. So it gets to be very liberating. the boundary. And that's something that that's my journey now, is becoming even more personally liberated from the offerings that I offer. What does that mean? That means letting the offerings hold the energy of what they contain and detaching myself from being personally invested in who likes, who doesn't like, who wants, who doesn't want. I'm only responsible for the work that I do, the boundaries that I hold, and the level of support that I provide to the one who is there in. But who wants to be in, who doesn't want to be in, who feels comfortable with the price, who doesn't feel comfortable, I can't control that anyway. So it's not about me. So it's detaching myself from that, from making it mean anything. And this incredible lesson just happened upon me. And that's really the last thing, because my phone's about to die once again. The last thing is, this woman reached out asking about my tarot course, and I was like, here's the price, here's the thing. And she didn't say anything for a little bit, and then she sent a message. She was like, hey, I love it, I want to be in. And I was like, okay. She was like, I would like a payment plan, but I would like longer. I need 18 months. I was like, okay, here's what it's gonna look like. She's like, okay. So I sent her the link, and that's it. She was like, I'm driving somewhere, I'll pay it whenever. And I was like, okay, take your time. And then nothing happened that day, and the next day, and the next day. And I had that old pattern resurface, like, what's going on? And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter what's going on. She might have changed her mind. And you know what? I'm going to be all right with that. I am not under any circumstances going to follow up and be like, hey, have you seen the link that I sent you? Because I don't do that. I hate when people do that to me. So it is what it is. It's either yes or no, and it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything about me. And then she paid the first payment. She was like, thank you so much for giving me the space, and thank you so much for not checking in. I felt kind of bad that I needed to wait a few extra days, but here I am now. And I was like, no worries. This is what I stand for. Another woman reached out also, and she said, hey, I would like to know about your tarot course. And I was like, okay, here it is. Here's the info. And I told her. And I sent her a few voice messages. She said, thank you so much for telling me about your tarot course. It sounds amazing, but it's not in my budget. I got this, I'm paying for this, I'm paying for that, I'm paying for something else. And then she sent another message, I thought your tarot course would be more like something like $500. That's what I was kind of, and I'm not saying that it should be, I'm just saying that's what I kind of thought it would be, but it's not. So I was like, no worries. Sending you love, you got this. Like, you don't have to be part of my tarot course in order to have it all in your life. If it's in alignment some other time, there will be another round at some point. And if it's not, it's not. It's okay. No worries. My old no boundaries Katerina, no boundaries girl, would have been like, oh my God. She said it should have been 500. She said she doesn't mean that it should be, but I feel like it does mean that it should be. I felt like she said she felt like it meant, and she said, and so on and so forth. No, it doesn't mean anything about me. That's what she felt that it might be, but it's not. I'm not taking that personally. That's just not in alignment with the expectation, anticipation, the energy exchange she was prepared for. It's not in alignment with that energy exchange. It's something else. She might find the course that is exactly in that range, that she'll be like, that's what I was expecting. That's what I thought this other course would be, but I found the one that is in alignment. Doesn't mean anything about me. That's the true boundaries. So if at any point, my friends, you inquire about a reading, a course, a service, a coaching, whatever, and I tell you, and then you just go silent, you're never gonna hear from me again about this thing. Not because I'm annoyed, but because I'm not gonna follow up. I don't do that. You might reach out in a few days or weeks and about I saw in your stories you posted about dandelions that you saw on the side of the road. They were so pretty. And I'm gonna be like, oh my God, they are so pretty. I love you so much. I'm not gonna be silent, she'd never clicked that link, so I'm not gonna engage with her anymore. It has nothing to do with anything. So if you ever ask about anything and it's just like not, you don't even have to tell me anything. There's gonna be no follow-up. There's gonna be no check-in to see if you saw the link, because it's ridiculous. The no boundaries girl would have been checking in because she's so insecure. But me now, I don't care. I don't care. I really do not. It's either in alignment and it's a yes, and then it's a yes because of you. It's a yes for you. It's a yes to me, but it's not about me. It's about you. And if it's a no, it's also not about me. It's also just about you. It's like just not in alignment. So it doesn't mean anything. So this is the biggest boundaries transmission here. So now I'm going to catch up with the comments and then I'm going to jump off because I don't want my phone to die. Again, because every time I feel like the video might just disappear. So, love this idea. Kayla, thank you. Surrender and leave it up to the universe. Exactly. I always feel so guilty being the person to ask for the payment plan for the space to decide. Getting better so hard. But hey, you know what? I'm on payment plans right now. I just love it. I love it because every month I get to calibrate to that payment, whatever it is, however big or small. And every time it feels like, yes, you know what? I made another payment because I love it. And I love this thing that I'm part of. I am making these payments work. And they are, I get to be part of it on my terms because it's about me. And that's why I love, this is not an idea that I've seen in this coaching industry a lot, Kayla, by the way. I just want to share this. But that's why, maybe that's an idea that might work for you. Because when you work the payment plans, when you make them work for you, when you purchase from others, you're a match to someone making payment plans with you for your higher end programs. Like if you make them work, there's someone else who's going to make yours work. So you're a match to the other end of it too. So I love having people on payment plans. But the thing is, that's why I love creating custom payment plans. That's why when someone asks like, how much is it? I say, hey, we can make it as long as you want and you can pay as little as you want per month, week, whatever. It's up to you. And then the person's really in charge of how they pay it, what they do. Like, this is their idea. It becomes totally their idea. It's not only their investment, but it's on their terms. And I love that so much. I feel like there's so much power in that. So I love that. Love that. So I don't even like giving really like options. I can say, hey, how does it sound to have this for this month? Can we make it longer, short? Can we make it short? Can we actually do higher amounts for less time? Yeah, we can do whatever. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I really don't. You're in alignment with that investment. However it comes out and whenever they come out, these payments, you're still in alignment with this investment, so it doesn't make it less. Okay, so Casey said, old boundaries girl is gone, gone, gone. Yes. Love hearing this transformational story. So good, so good. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. I feel like tonight was intense. I don't even know how long it's been, but I know it's time for me to wrap it up because I just love sharing. And I love that this is a smaller circle than just like my public lives. And I feel like everyone who's here is meant to be here. So I'm so grateful for you guys to be here tonight with me for day 2. And tomorrow is going to blow your mind. The story I'm going to tell you tomorrow, you're going to be like, what? What? Yes. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm not sure what time yet. It might be during daytime. But even if you don't make it live, there's going to be a replay. And even at the end of this group, you're all going to get an email with all these videos as a permanent link. So you can watch them whenever. Off of Facebook. Just links. So you can go and watch them. Rewatch them. So thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow. Mwah.